I stood in front of the gilt-framed mirror, watching my sister Victoria twirl in her designer wedding dress while our mother dabbed tears from her eyes. The dress probably cost more than my entire farm's quarterly revenue, but who was counting? Not them, certainly. My name is Paris, and I was the family's greatest disappointment. Also, they never tired of reminding me. I adjusted my simple blue dress, painfully aware of my calloused hands and the hint of dirt beneath my nails that no amount of scrubbing could remove. "Oh, darling, you look absolutely perfect," our mother Natalie gushed, smoothing Victoria's veil. "Raphael's family will be so impressed. A proper society wedding, just as we always dreamed." Victoria beamed. "Unlike some people's barn ceremony," she said, shooting me a pointed look through the mirror. I bit my tongue, thinking of my wedding to Quinton 2 years ago. Simple, yes. In a restored barn, yes. But filled with more genuine love than this entire country club could hold. "Paris, dear," my mother turned to me with that familiar plastic smile. "Do try to keep your rural charm subtle during the photos, and maybe we can do something about those hands of yours. I have some concealer." "My hands are fine, Mother." "They look like a farm hands," Victoria sniffed. "I am a farmer." The door opened and my father Damien poked his head in. "They're ready for us. Victoria, you look stunning." His eyes skipped over me like I was part of the wallpaper. The ceremony was exactly what you'd expect. Excessive flowers, string quartet, champagne flowing like water. I sat in the back row with Quinton, who squeezed my hand throughout. Raphael, the high-flying CEO, looked more like he was closing a business deal than getting married. At the reception, I made the mistake of thinking I could quietly enjoy my meal. Mother had other plans. "Paris," she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, "since you're so experienced with manual labour, perhaps you could help the staff clean the stables afterward. They're part of the venue's historic charm, you know." Laughter rippled through the gathered guests. Old money, new money, all of them looking at me like I was some quaint curiosity. "Actually," Quinton spoke up, his voice calm but firm, "we need to head back early. The new irrigation system is being installed tomorrow. More titters." Victoria, holding court at the head table, stage whispered to Raphael, "God, can you imagine? Playing in the dirt when you could be living like this?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the marble floor. "Congratulations, Victoria. I hope you'll be very happy." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. "Leaving so soon?" Mother called out. "But Victoria hasn't even thrown the bouquet." "I have real flowers to tend to," I replied, heading for the exit with Quinton close behind. In our truck driving away from the country club, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding all day. Quinton reached over and took my hand, my rough, capable, dirt-stained hand. "You okay?" he asked. I looked out at the setting sun painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. In a few hours we'd be home, where the air smelled of earth and possibility instead of expensive perfume and judgment. "You know what?" I said, a strange calm settling over me. "I am, because this is the last time. The last time. The last time I let them make me feel small. The last time I apologize for who I am or what we do." I turned to face him. "I'm done begging for their approval." He smiled, that same smile that had made me fall in love with him. "Good. Because what we're building, it's bigger than they could ever understand." I nodded, thinking of our plans, the grant application we'd submitted, the innovations we were developing. They saw dirt under my nails. They didn't see the revolution we were quietly growing. "Let them have their crystal champagne flutes and country club memberships," I said. "We're playing a longer game." As we drove further from the venue, my phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Sorry you had to leave early. Must be exhausting playing farmer all day. Don't worry, when you finally give up the act, I'm sure Raphael can find Quinton a real job." I turned off my phone without replying. Let them think what they wanted. They had no idea what was coming. "Home?" Quinton asked as we approached the highway junction. "Home," I agreed. "We've got work to do." And we did. The kind of work that would eventually make them all eat their words, served cold on a silver platter they couldn't afford anymore. Dawn broke over our land as I walked the eastern fields with Emerson, our agricultural scientist turned business partner. The morning dew caught the sunlight, making the innovative irrigation systems we'd installed glitter like diamonds, real ones, not like the gaudy rocks Victoria had flashed at her wedding 2 months ago. "These soil readings are incredible," Emerson said, checking her tablet. "The regenerative techniques are working better than projected. We're seeing a 40% increase in nutrient density." I crouched down, running my fingers through the rich, dark earth. "Show me the numbers for the Western Quadrant." "Paris!" Kendall, my assistant, came jogging across the field, tablet in hand. "The State Agricultural Council is on the line. It's about the grant application." My heart skipped. We'd spent months preparing that proposal, detailing our plans for sustainable farming innovation. This could change everything. I took the call in our newly renovated barn office. Quinton stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder, as we listened to the council representative. $300,000, she said. "The committee was particularly impressed with your integration of traditional farming methods with cutting-edge technology." After the call, Quinton lifted me off my feet in a bear hug. "We did it!" "We did it!" I echoed, still stunned. "We can finally expand the regenerative program to the full valley." Kendall burst in with champagne, the cheap kind, but it tasted better than anything served at Victoria's wedding. As we celebrated, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Saw your rustic little farm on Google Earth. Must be exhausting playing in the dirt all day. Still time to get a real job." I showed it to Quinton, who laughed. "Should we tell them about the grant?" "No," I said, deleting the message. "Let them think what they want." Later that afternoon, I walked the property with Emerson, planning the expansion. "We'll need to hire more staff," she said, marking areas on our map. "And that abandoned Thompson estate next door would be perfect for the new greenhouse complex." "The asking price is steep," I admitted. "But with the grant money as leverage, we could secure the financing. Paris, this could be huge." My phone rang. Mother. I sent it to voicemail, like I had dozens of times since the wedding. She'd left messages about charity galas, country club events, things that seemed from another world now. That evening, Quinton and I sat on our porch, watching the sunset paint the sky. He handed me a beer. Local craft brew, nothing fancy. "Remember when your mother said this place would kill us?" he asked. I laughed. "Right after we bought it. That wasteland will drain every penny you have," I mimicked her voice. "If she could see the soil samples now." She wouldn't understand them anyway. I took a sip of beer. "Did you see the latest article about Raphael's company? Something about aggressive expansion and risky investments?" Quinton nodded. Victoria's castle might not be built on such solid ground after all. The next morning, Kendall brought more news. "The Thompson estate? They're desperate to sell. Asking price just dropped 20%. I spent the day in meetings with our lawyer and the bank. By sunset, we had a deal in principle. The land would be ours within months. That night, another ignored call from Mother. Her voicemail was different this time. "Paris, darling, I hope you're well. I was just wondering if you've heard from Victoria lately. She's been difficult to reach, and there are some concerning rumours about Raphael's business. Call me back, dear." I played it for Quinton as we lay in bed. "Sounds like trouble in paradise," he said. "Maybe they should have invested in dirt instead of derivatives," I replied, thinking of our expanding empire of fertile soil and sustainable innovation. A text from Emerson lit up my phone. State Agricultural Department wants to feature us in their annual report. Apparently, we're becoming the model for next-gen farming. I showed Quinton the message. Should we tell them? He asked again. No, I said, setting my phone aside. Let them figure it out on their own. Outside, the irrigation systems hummed softly, nurturing our growing empire. In the distance, the lights of the Thompson estate, soon to be ours, twinkled like fallen stars. You know what the best revenge is? I asked Quinton. What's that? Building something so big they can't ignore it, something so real it makes their whole world look fake. He pulled me closer. Then let's build it bigger. I fell asleep thinking of soil samples and bank statements, of ignored calls and deleted texts, of a future growing right under my family's upturned noses. They thought I was playing farmer. They had no idea I was becoming something much more powerful, the owner of their future. The morning headlines hit like thunderclaps. Major tech firm under federal investigation. I didn't need to read further to know it was Raphael's company. Kendall burst into my office, tablet in hand, her eyes wide. Paris, you need to see this. Raphael's company is imploding. The SEC is investigating them for fraud, and their stock just dropped 60%. I leaned back in my chair, remembering Victoria's smug face at her wedding. Any word from my sister? Nothing direct, but social media's buzzing. They've cancelled their membership at the country club, and there are rumours they're selling their vacation homes. My phone rang. Mother, again. This time I answered. Paris, darling, how lovely to catch you. I was just thinking about you. Were you, Mother? Or did you see the news about Raphael's company? A pause. Well, yes, there are some unfortunate rumours, but Victoria assures me it's all a misunderstanding. Actually, I was calling about your father's birthday next month. We're having a small gathering. Small gathering? I cut in. Like the small gathering last year with 300 people at the yacht club. Well, we're scaling back this year, being prudent. But surely you and Quinton could make an appearance. Victoria could use the family support right now. I looked out my office window at our expanding operation. Workers were installing solar panels on the new greenhouse complex, the former Thompson estate, now ours. I'm afraid we're quite busy, I said. The governor is visiting next week to see our sustainable agriculture program. The governor? Mother's voice cracked slightly. Yes, turns out playing in the dirt can be quite important. Speaking of which, I have a meeting. Give my best to Victoria. I hung up and walked outside, where Emerson was directing the installation team. How's it looking? Perfect timing, she said. With these panels, we'll be energy independent by winter. Did you see the news about Raphael? Just did. Kendall says they're selling assets. Including that ridiculous estate on the North Ridge, she grinned. The one with the marble fountains. I raised an eyebrow. Really? How interesting. That afternoon, I met with our lawyer and bank representative. Within hours, we had a preliminary offer on Victoria and Raphael's estate, through a shell company, of course. They wouldn't know we were the buyers. Quinton found me later in the experimental greenhouse. You're plotting something, he said, watching me examine the new hydroponic systems. The Northridge property would be perfect for our vertical farming project, I replied innocently. He laughed. And the fact that it's your sister's house has nothing to do with it? Former house, I corrected. According to Kendall's sources, Raphael hasn't been home in 3 days. No one knows where he is. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Just a temporary setback. Raphael says everything will be fine. Not that you'd understand business at this level. I showed it to Quinton. Should we tell her we're about to own her house? Let her figure it out herself, he said, echoing my words from months ago. The next day, Kendall rushed in during my meeting with the State Agricultural Board. Raphael's gone, she whispered. private jet to a non-extradition country, left Victoria behind. I excused myself from the meeting and called Mother. "Oh, Paris," she answered, her voice shaky. "Have you heard? It's all a terrible mistake. Raphael's just on a business trip." "To a country with no extradition treaty?" "Mother, stop lying to yourself. Where's Victoria?" "She's managing. The bank has frozen their accounts, but we're helping where we can. Though your father's investments haven't been performing well lately." I could hear the fear beneath her practiced society voice. Their world was crumbling, and they knew it. That evening, I sat with Quinton on our porch, watching the sunset paint the sky over our thriving fields. Our empire had grown while theirs collapsed. "The offer on Victoria's house was accepted," I said. "We own the North Ridge now." "And the South Valley," he added, "and the East Quarter." "We own most of the county," I realised aloud. "Everything they used to look down on." My phone lit up with another call from Mother. This time, her voicemail was desperate. "Paris, please, things are difficult. Victoria needs somewhere to stay just for a while. I know we've had our differences, but we're family." I deleted the message and looked out over our land, our real, solid, growing empire built on innovation and actual work, not paper wealth and empty status. "They're going to come here," I told Quinton, "when they have nowhere else to go." He took my hand. "What will you do when they do?" I smiled, thinking of all those years of judgment and mockery. "I'll show them exactly what playing farmer really means." The sun set on our kingdom of dirt and innovation, while somewhere in the darkness, my family's glass castle finally shattered. The security system pinged at 6:43 a.m. I watched through the cameras as a luxury SUV, dusty and road-worn, pulled up to our main gates. Even through the grainy footage, I recognised them: Victoria, Mother, and Father, looking decidedly less polished than the last time I'd seen them. "They're here," I told Quinton, who was making coffee in our kitchen. "Earlier than I expected," he said. "Want me to handle it?" "No, I need to do this." I took my time walking to the gates. The morning fog hung low over our fields, making the estate look almost mystical. Through the wrought iron bars, I could see Victoria's designer clothes were wrinkled, her perfect hair unkempt. Mother's makeup couldn't hide her exhaustion. Father looked smaller somehow, diminished. "Paris," Mother called out, trying to maintain her usual commanding tone. "We've been trying to reach you." "I know." I stood before the gate, not reaching for the control panel. "Why are you here?" Victoria stepped forward. We need help." The words seemed to physically pain her. "Raphael's gone. The accounts are frozen. The banks took everything." "Everything except what you put in Mother and Father's names?" I asked. Mother flinched. "That's also gone. Your father's investments." "Were tied to Raphael's company," I finished. "I know. I read the financial news." "Please," Father spoke for the first time, his voice rough. "We didn't know where else to go." I looked at their car, packed with expensive luggage. "No friends from the country club offered to take you in?" "They're not." Victoria swallowed hard. "They're not returning our calls." "Funny how that works," I said, remembering all the parties I hadn't been invited to, all the calls they hadn't returned when I was building my little farm. "Paris, please." Mother stepped closer to the gate. "We're family." "Family?" I laughed. "Now we're family? Not when you mocked my wedding. Not when you called my work beneath you. Not when you—" "Paris." Quinton's voice behind me was soft but firm. He'd followed me out, carrying 2 travel mugs of coffee. He handed me one. "It's your call." I took a long sip, letting them wait. Through the gate, I could see Victoria shivering in her thin designer jacket. The morning was cool, and they clearly weren't dressed for rural life. Finally, I pressed the gate control. "Drive up to the house. The guest cottage on the east side will be opened for you." "The cottage?" Mother's voice rose slightly. But surely, the cottage, I repeated firmly, or the highway, your choice. They drove through slowly, taking in the scope of the property. I saw their eyes widen at the solar arrays, the state-of-the-art greenhouses, the fleet of agricultural drones charging in their stations. This wasn't the humble farm they'd imagined. I met them at the cottage, a comfortable but modest 3-bedroom house we usually used for visiting researchers. Kendall was already there, having prepared the basics. Clean linens, toiletries, some simple groceries. This is... Mother looked around the simple furnishings, clearly struggling to be diplomatic. Cosy. It's more than you deserve, I said quietly. Kendall will show you around and explain the rules. Rules? Victoria's head snapped up. What rules? You want to stay here? You work? Everyone on this property contributes. I turned to Kendall. Give them the orientation packet. Work assignments start tomorrow. Work? Mother looked horrified. But your father's health will be evaluated by our medical team. If he's cleared for light duty, he works. If not, we'll make other arrangements. I headed for the door. Welcome to reality. Paris, Victoria called out as I reached the threshold. This isn't what we expected. I turned back. No. What did you expect, Victoria? The same little dirt farm you used to laugh about? The one you said would kill us? She looked down at her manicured hands, hands that had never known real work. She started. You don't what? Don't understand how your little sister ended up owning the largest agricultural innovation centre in the state. Don't understand how I bought your foreclosed mansion. Don't understand how everything you thought was beneath you turned out to be worth more than your entire world. Silence fell heavy in the cottage. Even Mother seemed at a loss for words. Get some rest, I said finally. Tomorrow you learn what real work looks like. Outside, Quinton waited for me. You okay? I looked back at the cottage, then out at our thriving empire. You know what's funny? I thought seeing them like this would feel better. And it doesn't. No, I said, starting toward our main house. It feels exactly right. Behind us, through the cottage window, I could see my family standing lost in their new reality, while around them my kingdom of dirt continued to grow. You want me to do what? Victoria stared at the work boots and overalls Kendall had laid out for her. Greenhouse maintenance, Kendall repeated patiently. The hydroponic systems need daily attention. Emerson will train you. It was their first morning as workers on my estate. Mother stood nearby, already dressed in her assigned uniform, looking like she'd swallowed something sour. This is ridiculous, Victoria snapped. Paris can't seriously expect us to... We can and I do, I said, entering the cottage's small kitchen. Everyone works here, even me. But we're not. We've never... Mother struggled to find words that wouldn't sound entitled. Never worked a day in your lives? I finished for her. I know, that changes today. Father appeared from his room, already dressed in his work clothes. The medical team had cleared him for light duties, and something in his expression seemed almost relieved to have a purpose. Where do I start? He asked quietly. I nodded to Kendall, who led him out to help with equipment maintenance. At least one of them was adapting. This is cruel, Victoria hissed once he'd gone. You're enjoying this. Enjoying what? Giving you shelter, food, a chance to earn your keep? That's more than Raphael gave you when he ran. The barb hit home. Victoria flinched, then grabbed the overalls and stormed off to change. Later that morning, I found Mother struggling with basic data entry in the monitoring station. Her perfectly manicured nails kept hitting the wrong keys. Need help? I asked. This system is complicated, she admitted. It tracks soil conditions, weather patterns, and crop yields across the entire valley. I pulled up a chair. Including the land your country club used to sit on. She looked at me sharply. You bought that too? along with most of the properties you used to visit for your charity galas. I showed her how to enter the data correctly. Funny how paper wealth disappears, but land endures. By afternoon, Victoria had managed to knock over 2 hydroponic towers, causing Emerson to send her back to the cottage early. I found her on the porch, crying. "Giving up already?" I asked, sitting beside her. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Why not just turn us away?" "Because you need to understand." "Huh? Understand what?" "What it feels like to build something real, to create value instead of just spending it." She wiped her eyes. "I get it, okay? You won. You're successful. We were wrong about you. Happy now?" "This isn't about being happy, Victoria. This is about consequences." That evening, I held a staff meeting in the main house. Through the window, I could see my family trudging back to their cottage, dirty and exhausted. "How are they doing?" Quinton asked Kendall. "Your father's actually decent with machinery," she reported. "Your mother's trying in her way. Victoria's challenging." "She'll learn," I said, "or she'll leave." Later that night, unable to sleep, I walked the grounds. To my surprise, I found Father sitting on the cottage porch, staring at the stars. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked. "Too many thoughts?" He gestured to the land around us. "You've built something remarkable here, Paris." "No thanks to any of you," he nodded slowly. "I know, I was wrong about many things." "Save it," I said, turning to leave. "I don't need your approval anymore." "I'm not offering approval," he called after me. "Just admitting failure." I paused but didn't turn back. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's another working day." Returning to the main house, I found Quinton in our kitchen. "Checking on them?" he asked. "Making sure Victoria isn't trying to contact her rich friends again?" "Actually," Kendall appeared in the doorway with her tablet, "she did try. I monitored her phone activity. She's been reaching out to lawyers, looking for ways to claim part of the estate." I laughed without humour. Of course she has. Old habits die hard. "Want me to shut down her phone access?" Kendall asked. "No," I decided. "Let her try. Every lawyer in the region knows who owns this valley now. Let her learn that lesson too." Through the window, I could see the lights go out in the cottage one by one. My family, who once lived in mansions and looked down on my choices, now slept in a workers' quarters on my land. "You know," Quinton said, wrapping his arms around me from behind, "revenge doesn't always taste as sweet as we expect." "This isn't revenge," I replied, watching the moonlight play over our fields. "This is education. They wanted to be part of my success. Well, now they get to see exactly how it was built, one handful of dirt at a time." The confrontation I'd been expecting finally came 3 weeks into their stay. Victoria stormed into my office, waving her phone, face flushed with rage. "You bought my house!" she screamed. "You actually bought my house!" I looked up calmly from my laptop. "The Northridge property? Yes, I did. It's being converted into a vertical farming research centre." "How dare you! That was my home!" was being the operative word. "The bank owned it, Victoria. I just made the best offer." She slammed her hands on my desk. "Is this what you wanted? To humiliate us? To make us work like servants on your precious farm while you live in your big house?" "Actually," I stood slowly, "what I wanted was to be accepted by my family, to have my work respected, to not be mocked at every holiday, every wedding, every family gathering. But we don't always get what we want, do we?" "We were right about you," she spat. "You're nothing but a vindictive—" "Careful," I cut her off. "Remember who provides your bed and meals now." The door opened and Mother rushed in, presumably having heard the shouting. "Girls, please, we're family." "Family?" I laughed. "Now we're family. Where was this family spirit when you told everyone I was throwing my life away? When you excluded Quinton from family photos? When you were embarrassing us," Victoria shrieked, Playing farmer when you could have had so much more. More what? More like you, a trophy wife to a criminal who abandoned you, or like mother and father who lost everything because they were too proud to see the truth. That's enough! Father's voice cracked through the air. He stood in the doorway, leaning heavily on the frame. His face was ashen, sweat beading on his forehead. Father? Mother rushed to him as his knees buckled. I was already on the phone. Medical team to my office now. Possible cardiac event. Everything moved quickly after that. Our on-site medical team arrived within minutes. They stabilized Father and called an ambulance. As they loaded him in, Mother turned to me with tears in her eyes. Paris, please, the medical bills. I held up my hand. He's covered under our company's health plan, as are all our workers. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Later that night, I sat with Quinton in the hospital waiting room. Victoria and Mother had finally fallen asleep in the uncomfortable chairs. The doctor says it was stress-induced, I told him quietly, years of pressure finally catching up. Are you okay? I watched my mother's head bob as she dozed. She looked older than I'd ever seen her. I wanted them to understand what they did to me. I didn't want this. You're not responsible for his health, Paris. But aren't I? I brought them here, made them work, pushed them to what? Face reality? They did this to themselves. You just refused to rescue them on their terms. A doctor appeared with an update. Father was stable but would need rest and rehabilitation. No work for at least 6 weeks. He can stay in the cottage, I told Mother when she started worrying about arrangements. We'll adjust his duties when he's cleared to return. A return? Victoria had woken up. You still expect him to work after this? Everyone works, I repeated my mantra, but it felt hollow now. He could have died, she shouted, drawing looks from the hospital staff. Lower your voice, I warned. Or what? You'll throw us out. Prove once and for all that you're exactly what we always said you were. I stood up slowly. And what exactly did you always say I was, Victoria? A bitter, vengeful person who chose dirt over family. No, I stepped closer to her. I chose integrity over pretense, reality over illusion, and look which one survived. Girls, Mother interrupted, her voice trembling. Please, your father. I turned away, walking to the window. Outside, the city lights twinkled, so different from the starlight over my fields. I thought about Father, lying in that hospital bed, his carefully constructed world finally, completely shattered. The cottage is yours for as long as he needs to recover, I said, without turning around. No work requirements. After that, you'll all need to make your own choices. Our choices? Victoria's laugh was bitter. What choices? You own everything we had. I finally turned back to face them. No, Victoria, I own everything you lost. There's a difference. Mother stood up shakily. Paris, I know we can never make up for... But maybe... Maybe what, Mother? We can be a happy family now. Play pretend like none of it happened. No, she whispered. But maybe we can try to understand each other. Finally. I looked at them, my proud, broken family, and felt the weight of victory turn to ashes in my mouth. Understanding, I said quietly, might be the hardest work of all. The Agricultural Innovation Festival transformed our main fields into a showcase of achievement. Hundreds of people milled about, examining our sustainable farming techniques, advanced hydroponics, and solar integration systems. Press cameras flashed as the governor toured our facilities. Ms. Thornton, a reporter called out, how does it feel to be named Entrepreneur of the Year? I caught sight of my family standing at the back of the crowd. Father, still recovering but standing straighter now. Mother trying to blend in despite her designer sunglasses, and Victoria, arms crossed, watching everything with unreadable eyes. It feels like validation, I answered, turning back to the reporter. Not for me, but for everyone who's ever been told their dreams were too small, too dirty, or too beneath them. The crowd moved toward the main stage for my acceptance speech. Quinton squeezed my hand before I stepped up to the podium. 10 years ago, I began, someone very close to me said I was throwing my life away by choosing to work the land. They said I was embarrassing my family by marrying a farmer, that I would never amount to anything playing in the dirt. I saw Mother flinch in the audience. What they didn't understand was that soil, real, living soil, holds more value than any stock portfolio. While paper fortunes vanish overnight, the land endures. While artificial wealth crumbles, innovation grows. Victoria shifted uncomfortably. Today, our sustainable agricultural methods feed thousands. Our research helps farmers across the country adapt to climate change. And yes, we've built financial success, not through market manipulation or empty promises, but through real, tangible value. The governor nodded approvingly from the front row. To anyone who's been told their dreams are too small, too practical, or too beneath them, I say this: build anyway. Build something real. Because at the end of the day, you can't eat status. You can't drink privilege. The only thing that matters is what you create with your own hands, your own mind, and your own integrity. The applause was thunderous. As I stepped down, Emerson rushed up with exciting news about our latest soil regeneration results, but my eyes were fixed on my family making their way through the crowd. "Quite a speech," Father said when they reached me. His voice was neutral, but something had changed in his eyes. "Did you mean all that?" Victoria demanded. "About building something real?" "Every word." "Then why make us work like common labourers? Why humiliate us?" "Because you needed to learn what common really means," I replied. "Those labourers you look down on, they're the ones who build everything real in this world." Mother removed her sunglasses, revealing red-rimmed eyes. "We were wrong about you, Paris. So terribly wrong." "I know. But this revenge," she gestured around at the festival, the crowds, the empire I'd built. "Was it worth it?" I looked at my family, really looked at them. Father, humbled but somehow more dignified in his simple clothes. Mother, stripped of her artificial polish, but finally seeing clearly. Victoria, angry, but beginning to understand. "This was never about revenge," I said quietly. "This was about building something that would last, something true." "And we're not part of it," Victoria concluded bitterly. "That's your choice," I replied. "You can stay, learn, contribute, build something real of your own, or you can leave, try to rebuild your old life somewhere else, but you can't go back to pretending anymore." The governor was approaching, likely for a photo opportunity. Before I turned to greet her, I looked at my family one last time. "The cottage is yours until Father's fully recovered. After that, you need to decide. Are you ready to build something real, or are you still just playing at life?" Later that evening, as the festival wound down, I found Father sitting alone by the hydroponics display. "Your mother and sister are packing," he said without looking at me. "Leaving already?" "Victoria is. Your mother, she's thinking about staying, learning, if you'll let her." I sat beside him. "And you?" He ran his hand along one of the hydroponic tubes, feeling the life-giving water flow within. "I spent my whole life chasing paper wealth, artificial status, never built anything real." He finally met my eyes. "Think you could use an apprentice groundskeeper?" For the first time since they'd arrived on my doorstep, I felt something crack in my carefully constructed walls. "The work's not easy," I warned. He smiled slightly. "Nothing real ever is." As the sun set over my empire of dirt and innovation, I watched the festival lights twinkle like stars across the fields. Tomorrow, Victoria would leave, trying to reconstruct her artificial world somewhere else. Mother would begin her hesitant journey toward understanding, and Father would take his first real steps toward building something true. Not a perfect ending, perhaps, but maybe something real was beginning. Victoria stood at my office door, a small suitcase at her feet. "I've called a car," she said. "It'll be here in an hour." I nodded, continuing to review soil analysis reports. Let her wait for an acknowledgement. "Aren't you going to try to stop me?" she finally asked. "Why would I? This is your choice." She stepped into the office, her designer clothes looking oddly out of place now. "Mother's really staying, isn't she?" "She starts training with Emerson tomorrow, basic soil chemistry, and Father's becoming a groundskeeper." She shook her head. "How did this happen? How did you become this?" I set down my papers. "I didn't become anything, Victoria. I built it, day by day, decision by decision, the same way you built your life on appearances and borrowed status." "I could have been more," she whispered, almost to herself. "You still can be." "What? Working for my little sister? Being reminded every day how wrong I was?" "No," I stood up. "Building something of your own, something real." She laughed bitterly. "With what? Raphael took everything." "Not everything." I pulled a file from my desk. "You have a business degree you never used, experience in event planning, even if it was just charity galas, and—" I opened the file. "There's an agricultural tourism company looking for a regional director." Her eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you have choices, real ones, not just running back to the artificial world you came from." "Why would you help me, after everything?" I walked to the window, looking out at the fields where Mother was taking her first lesson with Emerson. "Because revenge wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. But building something, that fills you up inside." Victoria joined me at the window. We watched in silence as Mother earnestly took notes while Emerson explained something about soil composition. "She looks different," Victoria said quietly. "She looks real." The door opened and Father came in, dirt on his work clothes, a quiet pride in his bearing that his expensive suits had never given him. "The new irrigation system is installed in Sector 4, he reported, then noticed Victoria's suitcase. "You're leaving?" "Can't stay here," she said. "I can't be— this." "This?" He gestured to his work clothes. "Happy? Purposeful?" "I need to find my own way." I handed her the file. "Then make it a real one this time." She took it, hesitated, then hugged me, the first real hug we'd shared in years. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." "I know." After she left, I walked the fields with Father, inspecting the new irrigation system. "She'll be back," he said confidently. "Maybe, when she's ready to build something real." "Like you did." He stopped, looking over the thriving empire that had grown from the dirt he once despised. "I never said it properly, but I'm proud of you, Paris." "I don't need your pride anymore," I replied honestly, "but I appreciate your respect." We reached the main greenhouse, where Mother was still deep in conversation with Emerson, her face animated as she learned about microorganisms and soil health. "She's different too," Father observed. "We all are." Quinton found us later at the cottage, sharing a simple dinner. No crystal glasses, no silver service, just honest food and real conversation. "Victoria got to the airport safely," he reported, "and the agricultural tourism company is interested in interviewing her." Mother looked up hopefully. "She's considering it." "She's considering reality," I corrected. Finally, that night, standing on our porch with Quinton, I watched the stars emerge over our fields. The same stars that had witnessed my humiliation at Victoria's wedding now shone down on my triumph. But it wasn't the triumph I'd expected. "You know what's funny?" I said to Quinton. "I thought owning the valley would be enough, that making them work for me would feel like justice. But watching them choose to change, That's better than revenge. He pulled me close. So what now? I thought about Mother studying soil chemistry with genuine interest, about Father finding dignity in honest work, about Victoria taking her first tentative steps toward building something real. Now we keep building, I said, not to prove anything anymore, but because it's who we are. The night air carried the scent of earth and growing things. Somewhere in the distance, coyotes called to each other across the valley. My valley. But ownership wasn't what mattered anymore. What mattered was what grew here. Crops, innovation, and maybe, finally, truth. They had shown up expecting pity, but found power instead. Not the artificial power they once wielded, but the real power that comes from creating something true. And in the end, that was better than any revenge I could have planned. Because dirt, honest dirt, never lies. And neither do the people who finally learn to build with it.
Hi, I'm Margaret. You know that moment when your world shifts and you realize everything you believed was a lie? Mine came 3 years into my marriage, on the eve of a life-changing back surgery. I was sitting at the kitchen table when I saw it. The account balance, 0. At first, I thought it had to be a glitch. Just yesterday, our joint account held $48,000. Everything I'd saved, plus the proceeds from selling my car. All of it earmarked for my surgery and recovery. Let me back up. I met Mike at a friend's barbecue. He was perfect, or so I thought. A successful real estate agent with a dazzling smile and what seemed like a loving, close-knit family. His mother, Barbara, was intense right from the start. Always calling, always having emergencies that demanded Mike's attention. I chalked it up to a protective mom being lonely with her husband, George, always traveling. She just misses Dad, Mike would say. Then there was Kelly, his younger sister, who had never met a designer bag she didn't need immediately. The red flags were there, but I didn't see them, not back then. Barbara's constant hints about family helping family, the time Kelly needed $5,000 for a business opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme, the way Mike would dodge conversations about finances. Family takes care of each other, they all parroted like a mantra. Funny how that care only ever flowed one way, their way. 3 weeks ago, I finally scheduled the surgery I'd needed since my accident. The pain had become unbearable, forcing me to leave my job as a physical therapist. After years of saving and with Mike promising to contribute, we had just enough for the surgery. Maybe you should wait, Barbara said at dinner last Sunday, her tone oozing false concern. She exchanged a knowing glance with Kelly. I brushed it off. Now, staring at the empty account, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my gut. I called Mike again, straight to voicemail, like the last 10 times. My hands shook as I scrolled through the texts I'd sent him. Then my phone buzzed. A new text. Mike, Mom needed the money. Family emergency. I'll explain later. Before I could even process that, another buzz. This time, a Facebook notification. Kelly's latest post. Shopping spree with Mom. Best day ever. The photo said it all. Barbara and Kelly grinning ear to ear, surrounded by Gucci and Prada shopping bags. The timestamp? 2 hours ago. I stared at the screen, my hospital bag packed and pre-surgery paperwork neatly stacked beside me. My chest tightened with a crushing realization. I didn't just have a back problem. I had a husband problem. A family problem. The next buzz was Anna, my best friend, bursting through my front door. One panicked phone call had her leaving her hospital shift early. What do you mean they emptied the account? She demanded, her voice rising as she read Mike's text over my shoulder. Family emergency. The only emergency here is your surgery tomorrow. While she fumed, my phone lit up with more texts from Mike. Mike, Mom really needs this. We can reschedule your surgery. You're being selfish. Family comes first. Selfish. My jaw clenched as Anna grabbed her iPad. Send me everything, she snapped. Texts, emails, bank statements, everything. Kelly's still posting live. Good. The idiots just handed us proof. She wasn't wrong. Kelly's Instagram story was a parade of excess. Designer bags, champagne glasses, Barbara beaming in front of a Mercedes dealership. The caption read, "New car for Mom. She deserves it." Then came the final blow. Barbara's text. Barbara, Margaret, honey, try to understand. Mike knows his priorities. I raised him right. A mother's needs come first. Your back isn't going anywhere. My back isn't going anywhere. Anna was already on the phone, her eyes blazing with fury. Sarah Bennett, Anna said, her voice firm. The best divorce lawyer in the state. She handled my sister's nightmare ex. Trust me, she'll destroy them. An hour later, I was sitting in Sarah's sleek office, watching her expression darken as she scrolled through the evidence Anna had meticulously organized. Financial abuse, premeditated theft, conspiracy, Sarah muttered, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the desk. Then she snorted, a cold, amused sound. And they documented everything on social media. They're not just stupid, they're criminally stupid. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mike. Mike, coming home soon. We need to talk about your attitude. Sarah's lips curled into a smile that was pure steel. Perfect, she said. Let's talk about attitude, shall we? But first, she pressed her intercom. Janet, call Judge Martinez. Emergency hearing. Domestic financial abuse. And get me Detective Torres. As she spoke, I felt something shift inside me. The pain in my back was still there, but something else was rising, something stronger than fear or heartbreak. One more thing, Sarah added, pulling out a form and handing it to me. Your surgery tomorrow. My brother's chief of surgery at Metro General. Unlike some people's family emergencies, this is actually urgent. Let's make sure you get the care you need first. Then she gestured at the growing pile of evidence. After that, we'll take care of this family. Anna squeezed my hand as Sarah made call after call. Through the office window, I spotted Kelly's latest Instagram post, another shopping photo, captioned hashtag best day ever. Oh honey, I whispered, my voice dripping with resolve. Your day's just getting started. The hearing? Sarah's emergency hearing was a nuclear bomb in disguise. Judge Martinez took one look at my medical records. 3 years of documented pain. Failed physical therapy, MRIs showing deteriorating discs, and his face turned stormy. Your husband withdrew money intended for medically necessary surgery, he said, his voice like ice. The day before the procedure. And that was just the beginning. Sarah's team had combed through bank records like hungry wolves. 5 separate withdrawals, Sarah explained. First Barbara, then Kelly, then George, then Mike. Coordinated. Planned. Timed specifically to drain the account before the surgery date. She paused, her gaze sweeping the courtroom. And this isn't the first time. The room fell silent as Sarah revealed bank statements going back 2 years. Secret loans, hidden withdrawals, and mysterious transfers, all funneling into Barbara's account. My surgical fund wasn't their first target. It was just their biggest grab. Detective Torres, seated in the gallery, stood up. We found similar patterns with Barbara Davidson's previous daughter-in-law. My head snapped up. Previous daughter-in-law? Mike's first wife, Torres explained. She mysteriously abandoned him 5 years ago, right after her inheritance came in. Barbara claimed she ran off with another man. Reality? The money vanished into Davidson family accounts. She didn't abandon anyone. She was financially drained and fled. Anna squeezed my hand again, leaning in to whisper, good news. Dr. Crawford reviewed your case. The hospital's patient advocacy program is covering your surgery. It's scheduled for next week. I nodded, my focus shifting to Mike. His face was a study in panic, his eyes darting to Barbara like a puppet waiting for its strings to be pulled. But Barbara wasn't looking at him. She was too busy deleting her social media posts. Too late. Sarah's team had archived everything. Your Honor, Sarah said, standing confidently. We've also discovered that Mr. Davidson has been taking out loans against their house. Loans Mrs. Davidson never signed for, using her forged signature. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. Enough. Detective Torres, I believe you have enough for criminal charges. Mrs. Davidson, your emergency protective order is granted. Mr. Davidson, surrender your assets, all of them. I caught Barbara's eye across the courtroom. For the first time, her perfectly made-up face showed cracks of fear. She hadn't expected this, any of it. She thought I'd be like the last one. Run away, disappear, let them win. But I wasn't going anywhere. My surgery was covered, my lawyer was a shark, and my best friend had my back. Their perfect little family scam was crumbling, and I was standing tall, ready to watch it collapse. 6 months after my surgery, I sat in the back of another courtroom, watching Mike accept his plea deal. 3 years for financial abuse and fraud. His real estate license revoked. Barbara wasn't doing much better. After the charges against Mike went public, other victims came forward, 3 more former daughters-in-law, each with eerily similar stories. The Davidson family's carefully curated reputation was in ruins, their social standing in our small town shattered. The local news didn't hold back, airing yet another story about the Davidsons. Kelly's so-called fashion boutique, funded by stolen money, was closing its doors. George, tired of Barbara's schemes, had filed for divorce. And Barbara, she was drowning in civil suits filed by multiple families. I touched my back, tracing a scar that was now a symbol of my survival. The surgery had worked better than I could have hoped. After 6 months of proper physical therapy, I was almost ready to return to work. My new apartment might be smaller than the house I'd shared with Mike, but it was mine. Truly mine. "Here's to Margaret," Anna said, raising her glass with a proud smile. "Who didn't just survive, she thrived." I smiled, lifting my own glass. Before taking a sip, I checked my phone one last time. A text from Detective Torres popped up. "Torres, Barbara's sentencing is set for next month. Kelly's filing for bankruptcy. Mike's appeal denied." I scrolled to the last photo in my gallery, a snapshot from that Sunday dinner, just before everything fell apart. There I was, smiling nervously, surrounded by the Davidson family, a picture-perfect lie. With a swipe, I deleted it. My back was healing, my career was waiting, and my real family, the friends who stood by me, were right here. I looked around my apartment at the faces of the people who had supported me through the darkest time of my life. No manipulations, no schemes, no guilt trips disguised as family comes first, just genuine love and support. The pain in my back had faded to almost nothing, but the lessons I'd learned, those would stay with me forever. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you marry into, and sometimes hitting rock bottom gives you the foundation to build your best life. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had been secretly funneling your savings to their family for years? Would you pursue legal action like Margaret or try to handle it privately? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Every family situation is unique, but some lines can't be uncrossed. If you enjoyed Margaret's journey to justice, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Your support helps us shine a light on stories like hers. Hi everyone, I'm Karen. Let me tell you the story of what happened with my ex-husband, James, and his ex-wife, Victoria. Buckle up, this one's a ride. It all began 3 years ago at the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. I was there representing my interior design firm, a business I poured a decade of hard work into building. While arranging the centerpieces, I bumped, quite literally, into James. He was tall, charming, and wearing a bow tie that was just slightly askew. "These tables look amazing," he said, adjusting his tie with a sheepish grin. "I'm on the hospital board, and I've never seen the gala look this elegant." We clicked instantly. James, a successful lawyer and divorcee, seemed genuinely captivated by my work. Our first date was the very next weekend, and before long, we were inseparable. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met," James would say, pulling me closer. "Victoria and I just grew apart, but with you, everything feels right." My sister, Sarah, wasn't so sure. "He talks about his ex a lot," she pointed out over coffee one day. "Are you sure he's moved on?" I brushed her off with a laugh. "You worry too much. They've been divorced for 2 years. It's ancient history." 18 months later, James proposed during a romantic weekend in the Hamptons. Everything about him seemed perfect, too perfect, in hindsight. We had a small, intimate wedding, though I couldn't ignore his brother Michael's odd behavior whenever Victoria's name came up at the reception. "It's just old family drama," James assured me. Michael and Victoria never got along. Life carried on. My best friend Amy threw us a housewarming party when we moved into our new home. While helping James unpack his office, she stumbled upon a box filled with old photos of him and Victoria. "Babe, why do you still have these?" I asked, feigning casualness. "Oh, I just haven't had time to sort through everything," he said, quickly shutting the box and stashing it away. 6 months into our marriage, I discovered I was pregnant. When I told James, he swept me off my feet, spinning me around in joy. But later that night, I overheard him on the phone. "No, I can't talk right now," he whispered in the backyard. "I'll call you back." When he came inside, I asked who he'd been talking to. "Just a client," he said, planting a kiss on my forehead. "You know how work gets." These small moments began to add up: the old photos, the hushed phone calls, the way he casually dropped Victoria's name in conversation. But I pushed my doubts aside. My life seemed picture perfect. A thriving career, a loving husband, and a baby on the way. Marriage is about trust. Emmy reminded me during one of our brunches. But it's also about instincts. Are you sure everything's okay? I forced a smile, resting a hand on my growing belly. "Everything's perfect," I said, even as unease gnawed at me. If only I'd listened to my gut. As my pregnancy progressed, Victoria started showing up everywhere. At first, it was coincidental, chance encounters at local coffee shops or community events. But then she seemed to be at every social gathering, always through mutual friends I didn't even know we had. "Victoria is just amazing with event planning," our neighbor gushed one afternoon. "She's organizing the most beautiful baby shower for you." I nearly choked on my tea. "I'm sorry, what? James didn't tell you?" "He asked Victoria to plan everything. He said you'd be thrilled." That evening, I confronted James. "Why would you let her plan my baby shower without even asking me?" "Honey, you've been so busy with work and the pregnancy," he said, trying to soothe me. "Victoria offered, and she's really good at this sort of thing. Just give her a chance." The baby shower was a disaster. Victoria had commandeered my mother's house, turning it into something that looked like a Pinterest board gone horribly wrong. She played hostess, recounting stories about James that always seemed to revolve around their time together. Remember when we planned our future children's names?" Victoria laughed, casually brushing James's arm. "You always loved the name Victoria Jr." The room fell uncomfortably silent. My sister, Sarah, shot them a sharp glance, her eyes narrowing as she took in their interactions. "James, could you help me in the kitchen?" Victoria called out every 15 minutes, as if it were her party. Each time they returned, they seemed more animated, whispering private jokes and exchanging meaningful glances. "Time for the thank you speech," Victoria announced near the end. "James insisted you'd want to properly thank everyone, especially your wonderful planner." James gently but firmly nudged me toward the center of the room. "Go on, honey. Tell everyone how grateful you are for Victoria's help." Humiliated, I stood in front of my family and friends, forcing a smile. "Thank you, Victoria, for everything," I managed, holding back tears. The following week, Amy showed up at my office, her face pale and serious. "Karen, I need to tell you something," she began. "I seen Victoria at James' office building 3 times this week. They were having lunch in his private office. Maybe it's about the shower," I suggested weakly, grasping at straws. "The shower's over," Amy said flatly. Sarah called next. "I've been going through your shared credit card statements like you asked," she said, her tone grim. "There are charges for Tiffany's, high-end restaurants, and hotel bars. Places I know you've never been." "Hotel bars?" I asked, my voice trembling. "The Waldorf, the Plaza, during business hours, when he claims he's in court," Sarah explained. James' excuses were growing more elaborate by the day. Late-night client meetings, weekend conferences, emergency consultations. One Friday, he announced he needed to fly to Boston for a case. That same evening, my doctor's office called. "Mrs. Thompson, we need to reschedule your husband's genetic counseling appointment since he missed today's." "What appointment?" "The one scheduled for 2 p.m. today. We called his office, but they said he was out of town." Panic set in. I checked his location using our shared phone plan. He wasn't in Boston, he was at the Plaza. That night, I lay in bed, 7 months pregnant, listening to James whisper on the phone in the backyard. Through the crack in the window, I heard him say, "I miss you too. We'll figure something out. I promise." The life I thought was perfect was unraveling, thread by thread. Sarah and Amy came over while James was at another meeting. We spread documents across the dining room table, bank statements, phone records, anything we could find. "Look at these email login attempts on your shared iPad," Amy said, pointing to the screen. "They're to an account you don't know about." After some digging, we cracked into James' old email account. My hands shook as I scrolled through hundreds of messages between him and Victoria, dating back to the beginning of our relationship. I miss holding you at night. Read one from just last week. Playing house with her is killing me, James had written. Just a little longer, baby. Once the baby comes, we'll figure out how to be together properly, Victoria had replied. My stomach lurched. Sarah gripped my hand. There's more, isn't there? Amy was already on the phone. Michael, we need to talk. Now. James's brother arrived an hour later, looking nervous. I handed him a cup of coffee. Tell me the truth. Please. He cracked almost immediately. They never separated, Karen. The divorce papers were drawn up but never filed. It was all staged. Victoria's business was failing, and they needed your money, your connections. My what? Your client list, your reputation. James used your design firm's contacts to funnel money into Victoria's event planning business. They've been partners the whole time. Partners in what way? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Both ways. Business and, he hesitated. Everything else. They thought having a baby would give them access to your family's trust fund. The room spun. The constant phone calls, the secret meetings, the joint business lunches. It all made sense now. Over the next week, we gathered everything. Documents, emails, recorded conversations. I played the role of the oblivious wife, all while building my case. How's Victoria's business doing? I'd asked James casually over dinner. Oh, she's been busy, but her company's taking off, he'd reply, unaware I had proof he was bankrolling it. I installed cameras in our home office and watched him on split screen, whispering sweet nothings to Victoria while lying to my face. The baby's kicking, I said one evening, guiding his hand to my belly. He smiled briefly, then checked his phone. Victoria says hi, he said absently, freezing as the words left his mouth. I smiled, hiding the storm brewing inside me. That's nice, honey. Tell her thanks again for the shower. They thought they were clever. They had no idea what was coming next. But they didn't realize they'd handed me everything I needed to destroy them both. By my 8th month, the plan was ready. I had transferred my personal assets to secure accounts, meticulously documented every fraudulent transaction, and hired a ruthless lawyer who specialized in takedowns. The day I left James, I did it with surgical precision. I'm going to Sarah's for the weekend to rest, I told him sweetly, packing a small bag. He kissed my cheek, oblivious. Instead, I executed my plan. First, I sent an anonymous tip to his law firm's ethics board about client fund misappropriation. Then, I submitted evidence of Victoria's business fraud to the IRS. Mrs. Thompson, my lawyer, called later that day. The forensic accountants found everything. They're going down. I was in the hospital when the follow-up began. Sarah and Amy held my hands as I brought my daughter, Emma, into the world. No James, no Victoria, just pure love and the start of a new chapter. Between contractions, Amy read updates aloud from her phone. Your soon-to-be ex-husband's firm is conducting an internal investigation. A month later, Victoria's business imploded. Turns out she'd been cooking the books for years. James drained his accounts trying to save her, but it was too late. Did you hear? Sarah rushed in one morning. James lost his license to practice law. The firm uncovered decades of ethical violations. I focused on rebuilding. My design firm flourished. Turns out clients appreciate honest business practices. Meanwhile, I watched from afar as James and Victoria's house of cards crumbled. 3 years passed. Emma grew into a spirited, strong-willed toddler. We were celebrating her 3rd birthday when I got the text. James has filed for bankruptcy. Mommy, more cake. Emma squealed, her face covered in frosting. That's when James showed up, uninvited. He looked terrible, no more expensive suits or slicked back hair. His voice trembled. Karen, please. I've lost everything. Victoria's facing jail time for tax fraud. I was wrong. You and Emma are my real family. I glanced at Emma, happily playing with her Aunt Sarah, and then at Amy, who'd stood by me through everything. My business was thriving. My life was peaceful. No, James, I said, my voice steady. You didn't lose everything. You threw it away. The difference matters. But I've changed, he pleaded. Victoria's ruined me. I realize now. Stop. I held up my hand. You're not here because you love us. You're here because you lost your backup plan. The answer is no. Karen, you can't keep my daughter from me. He tried one last time, desperation etched across his face. Watch me, I replied. And by the way, the DA has those recordings of you planning to steal my trust fund. Might want to lawyer up. Oh wait, you can't afford one anymore. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, calling after me. His voice meant nothing now. Some call it karma. I call it justice. Mommy. Emma called. Aunt Amy's doing the butterfly dance. Coming, sweetie, I said, scooping her into my arms. Love you, Mommy, she whispered, wrapping her little arms around my neck. Love you too, baby girl, I replied, holding her close. Looking at my daughter and my real family, I knew I'd won more than just justice. I'd won my freedom. They thought they could break me, but instead, I built something stronger from the pieces they left behind. Reflection. What would you do if you discovered your marriage was built on an elaborate lie? Would you confront the betrayal immediately or quietly gather evidence like I did? The scariest part of betrayal isn't the act itself. It's realizing how long you ignored the red flags. What warning signs stood out to you in my story? What patterns do you think people commonly overlook in their relationships? If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more real-life accounts of overcoming betrayal and finding strength. Share your experiences in the comments. You might help someone recognize toxic patterns before it's too late. Remember, losing what we thought we had can lead us to something better, if we're brave enough to walk away. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Mitchell, a 32-year-old dental hygienist who grew up in the foster care system. Today, I want to share how my mother-in-law and husband revealed their true colors. But first, let me tell you how it all began. You're doing amazing work with these patients, Maria, Jennifer said during our lunch break at the dental office. You should seriously think about opening your own clinic someday. That's actually my dream, I admitted, lowering my voice. Don't tell anyone, but I've been secretly saving up. Marcus doesn't know. He likes to handle all our finances. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Girl, that's a red flag. Why can't you have your own money? It's not like that, I replied quickly, though her words stung. He just wants to make sure we're secure. Deep down, though, I wasn't so sure. Marcus, my husband of 3 years, had a knack for masking control as care. Whenever I brought up my career goals, he'd say, "Baby, why stress yourself? My business is doing great. Just focus on your hygienist work, and I'll take care of the rest." Then there was Barbara, my mother-in-law. She lived just 10 minutes away and never missed an opportunity to remind me of her generosity. Marcus tells me you want to open a clinic someday, sweetheart, she said one afternoon, her smile saccharine. That's so ambitious for someone with your background. You should be grateful my son provides such a comfortable life. Her words cut deeper than I let on. My only real solace came from Mrs. Rodriguez, my elderly neighbor. One evening, as we shared her homemade tamales, she noticed my troubled expression. Maija, what's bothering you? Just mother-in-law drama, Mrs. R, I sighed. Barbara found out I'm taking extra shifts, and... Let me guess. She told Marcus? Yeah, he asked why I needed more money when he gives me everything I need. That same week, I met David Chen, Marcus's business partner, at a company dinner. Something about the way Marcus stiffened when David mentioned finances caught my attention. Maria, it's nice to finally meet you, David said warmly, though his expression betrayed concern. Your husband talks about you constantly. All good things, I hope, I replied, trying to read his face. Of course, he said, hesitating. Though I wish he'd mention you during our financial meetings. Barbara quickly cut in, her tone icy. David, dear, let's not bore Maria with business talk. She's perfectly happy letting Marcus handle all that, aren't you, sweetheart? I forced a smile, but inside, I was grateful for my secret savings account. Every extra shift, every bonus, $115,000 so far, was tucked away in what I called my escape fund. Jennifer noticed me checking the account balance at work the next day. Keep stashing that money, girl. Something about your husband and his mama doesn't sit right with me. Just be careful, okay? I nodded, not realizing how right she was or how soon my world would shatter. The day everything fell apart started like any other. I was organizing files in my home office when Barbara's voice startled me. Well, what do we have here? I turned to see her holding a bank statement I had hidden in my desk. $115,000, she sneered. Does Marcus know about this? That's private. I snapped, my voice trembling. How dare you go through my things? Private? She scoffed. Nothing's private when it comes to my son's money. Let's discuss this in the kitchen. My hands shook as I followed her. She moved deliberately, putting on water for tea. You ungrateful little gold digger, she hissed. All these years pretending to be the perfect wife. That's my son's money. I earned it, I shot back. Working extra shifts. It's my money. Oh, so you've been lying to Marcus too. The kettle whistled, shrill and piercing. Barbara grabbed it, stepping closer. You're going to tell Marcus everything, or I will. Go ahead, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I have nothing to hide. It happened in an instant. The kettle tipped, and scalding water splashed across my arm. Oh my! Barbara gasped, her voice dripping with mock concern. I'm so sorry. I tripped, and my scream brought Marcus running. The pain was excruciating. But what hurt worse was his reaction. Mom, what happened? He demanded. Your wife attacked me. Barbara cried, clutching her pearls in mock horror. I was just making tea and she lunged at me. What? That's insane. I protested. She deliberately. Enough, Marcus snapped, cutting me off. Mom, get some ice. Maria, how could you? Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from David Chen. Need to talk. Company finances, Marcus involved. Urgent. We met at a coffee shop the next morning. My arm throbbed beneath its bandage as David got straight to the point. Your husband's been embezzling funds, he said grimly, and his mother is helping launder the money through her charitable foundation. I felt the floor drop beneath me. How long have you known? I just got proof, he replied. I'm taking it to the board next week. Maria, you need to get out now. Jennifer helped me document my burns at the hospital. This is assault, she said firmly. You need to press charges. I can't, not yet, I said. I need to be smart about this. That's when David's sister, Lisa, walked in. Her sharp suit and commanding presence immediately filled the room. David told me everything, she said briskly. I'm a lawyer. We need to talk strategy. Back home, I started recording everything. Barbara's daily visits became a minefield of threats. I've destroyed better women than you, she sneered one morning. Ask Marcus's ex-girlfriends. Marcus wasn't much better. Where were you today? He asked one evening, his tone accusing. At work, like always, I replied, keeping my voice calm. Mom says you're plotting something. Don't test me, Maria. I plugged in my hidden recorder, catching every word. Those burns were your fault, he growled. You're lucky Mom didn't press charges. Jennifer was my lifeline during lunch breaks. I found you a safe apartment, she said, sliding me a key. 3 months deposit paid. I can't let you. Shut up and take the help, she snapped. Lisa's got your legal stuff covered. We're getting you out. That night, I stared at my burned arm in the mirror, and everything became crystal clear. The controlling behavior, the gaslighting, the accidents, it was all connected. Barbara hadn't stumbled upon my savings, she'd been searching for ammunition. And Marcus, he wasn't just complicit. He was worse than his mother. I sent everything to Lisa, bank statements, recordings, photos of my burns, documentation of Marcus's growing financial control over the years. Her response was immediate. Got everything. Building your case, stay safe, and act normal. 2 more weeks, max. Those 2 weeks felt like an eternity. The pieces of Marcus and Barbara's dark past started falling into place when Lisa arranged a meeting with Amanda, Marcus's ex-girlfriend. I can't believe she's still pulling the same tricks, Amanda said over coffee. The accidental burns. She did that to me, with hot coffee. How did you get away? I asked. I ran before the wedding, Amanda admitted. Lost my job, my apartment, but I saved my life. Barbara told everyone I was unstable. And Marcus. He always sided with Mommy Dearest. But it started small, financial control, subtle manipulation. Then I found documents about missing company money. Lisa arrived with a stack of files. 3 other women have come forward, she said, her tone grim. All former daughters-in-law, all with similar stories. One was hospitalized. Jesus, I whispered. How did they keep this quiet? Money and threats, Lisa said. Barbara's foundation paid them off. But here's the kicker. The foundation's books don't add up. That night, Barbara showed up uninvited, as usual. That arm healing well? She asked, her voice saccharine. Such a shame about your accident. We both know what really happened. Careful, Maria. Memory can be tricky when you're unstable. Mrs. Rodriguez was outside watering her plants when Barbara's nastiness reached its peak. You'll end up like the others, broke, alone, crazy. Who believe a foster kid over us? Later, Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on my door with tea. I heard everything, Maija, she said softly. I'm recording them too now. My security cameras don't miss much. Jennifer helped me secure my savings, transferring small amounts under $10,000 to avoid detection. Let Marcus think you're still working extra shifts, she said. The money's safe now. David called an emergency meeting at his office. The board meets next week, he said. I've got proof of everything, embezzlement, foundation fraud, all of it. What about Barbara? I asked. She's the key, David said. The foundation is her weak spot. Once that falls, the rest will collapse. Back home, Marcus's paranoia was escalating. Mom says you've been asking questions about the foundation, he said sharply. Just trying to help with the charity work. I replied evenly. Stay out of it. And what's this about you talking to Amanda? Amanda? I asked, feigning confusion. Your ex? I don't even know her. His face darkened. You're spying on me. No, I said calmly. You just messed up your own story. Barbara stormed in later that night. You think you're smart, playing detective. I learned from the best, Barbara, I said, my voice cold. How many daughters-in-law before me? You ungrateful little. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension from the doorway. Everything okay here? She asked, her tone sharp. My cameras picked up some shouting. Barbara's face turned ghostly pale. She knew she'd been caught. The next morning, I met Lisa. Everything's ready, she said, sliding a folder across the table. The board meeting is tomorrow. David has all the evidence. What about my recordings? I asked. Safe, Lisa assured me. We're building a separate case for the abuse. But the financial crimes? That's our silver bullet. That night, I overheard Marcus on the phone with Barbara. She knows something, he hissed. No, I can't just make her disappear. The board meeting. David wouldn't dare. He paused, his tone growing darker. Fine, I'll handle it. I texted Jennifer. It's happening tomorrow. Her response came immediately. Your apartment's ready. Go pack. Looking at our wedding photo, I felt nothing but disgust. Tomorrow their perfect little world would shatter, and I'd be gone before the pieces hit the ground. The next morning, I watched Marcus leave for work, pretending everything was normal. As soon as his car disappeared around the corner, I sprang into action. Jennifer texted, everything's set at the new place. Within an hour, my essential belongings were packed. Mrs. Rodriguez hugged me goodbye. Your moving truck just left, Maija, she said with a smile. Barbara's watching from her window. Perfect timing, I replied. The board meeting starts in 30 minutes. By the time the chaos erupted, I was already in my new apartment. Jennifer called with updates. David just dropped the bomb. FBI agents walked in during the meeting. You should see Marcus's face on the security feed. What about Barbara? I asked. She showed up screaming and made it worse. They're both being questioned now. The headlines came fast. Local business owner and mother arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. But the real satisfaction came from the follow-up stories exposing their history of abuse. 6 months later, my clinic opened its doors. Jennifer ran the front office like a pro. Next patient, she said one afternoon, handing me a chart. Another foster kid, she added. Dental school scholarship. Send them to my office first, I replied. I want to talk to them about our mentorship program. The karma was sweet. Marcus got 7 years in federal prison. Barbara's foundation collapsed, her reputation ruined. Her country club friends pretended not to know her, and legal fees devoured her savings. Then came Marcus's letter from prison. Maria, I'm so sorry. I see now what Mom and I did was wrong. Please give me another chance. I dropped it into the shredder without finishing. Mrs. Rodriguez visits often, bringing her famous tamales for the staff. Look at you now, Maija, she said one day. from hiding money to helping others hide from abuse. Lisa still handles our legal work pro bono. Another domestic violence survivor needs dental work, she said during a recent visit. Can you fit her in? There's always room for one more, I replied. This is what victory looks like, not just surviving, but thriving. And the best part, I did it without letting hate consume me. I let justice do its job while I built my dreams. No forgiveness needed. My success is the only closure I need. What about you? What would you have done in my shoes? Stay quiet about Marcus's financial crimes to protect yourself from Barbara's wrath, or expose everything knowing it could get dangerous? Hi, everyone. My name is Lena. I'm 28 years old and a graphic designer. This is the story of how my perfect romance unraveled into a nightmare. It all began last spring at the Tech Vision conference in Chicago. I was presenting my design portfolio, showcasing my unique fusion of traditional art and digital media. That's when I noticed him, a tall, charming man in the audience who seemed captivated by my work. After the session, he approached me, his blue eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Your work is incredible, he said. The way you blend traditional and digital techniques is unlike anything I've ever seen. That was James. My heart fluttered as we exchanged numbers, and by the following week, we were meeting for morning coffee dates before work. James was everything I thought I wanted: successful, attentive, and so understanding. You're different from anyone I've ever met, he'd say, and I believed him. 3 months into our relationship, James introduced me to his family. His sister, Sarah, was intense, to say the least. James tells me everything about you, she said, her piercing gaze making me feel like a specimen under a microscope. Her husband, Mike, was quieter, simply nodding along to whatever Sarah said. We're incredibly close, James explained. Sarah practically raised me after our dad passed away. Then there was Barbara, their mother, who had an unsettling habit of comparing me to James' ex-girlfriends. You're much more suitable than the others, she'd remark, her tone making it clear that I was being evaluated. My best friend, Diane, noticed red flags before I did. Don't you think it's strange how he checks your location so often? She asked over coffee one day. He's just protective, I replied, brushing off her concerns. He worries about me. But things took a darker turn as time went on. James proposed after a year of dating and the wedding. Well, it was everything Sarah wanted it to be. Looking back, I realize now how much control she had over every detail of our lives. We should live closer to Sarah, James suggested shortly after the honeymoon. She knows all the best neighborhoods and schools. Even when I planned a simple dinner with Diane, James would find a way to dissuade me. Baby, you've been so tired lately. Why don't we just stay in? Besides, Sarah's coming over. Then came the news that changed everything. I was pregnant. Overwhelmed with joy, I took 3 tests just to be sure. James seemed thrilled, but Sarah's reaction was off. You need to be extremely careful, she said, gripping my arm a little too tightly. Our family has a history of complicated pregnancies. Dr. Thompson will oversee everything to make sure it goes smoothly. Dr. Thompson, the family doctor, had always been unnervingly close to Sarah. I'd even caught them holding hands once when they thought no one was looking. But I was too excited about the baby to dwell on it, too blind to notice the exchanged glances or how James' reassuring words felt hollow. We'll take really good care of you, James said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. You won't have to worry about a thing. Things spiraled further when Sarah received devastating news she was infertile. I overheard her crying in the kitchen one morning, confiding in Dr. Thompson. It's not fair, she sobbed. I'll never have my own baby. After that, Sarah became obsessed with my pregnancy. She'd show up unannounced, placing her hands on my belly without asking. This baby will be so special to our family, she'd whisper with an unsettling intensity. James's behavior shifted too. One morning, he took my phone while I was in the shower. The radiation isn't good for the baby, he said when I protested. Dr. Thompson agrees. We'll get you a landline instead. Then came my work. Honey, about your job, James began cautiously. Dr. Thompson thinks the stress could harm the baby. You don't need to work. We can afford for you to stay home. Bit by bit, my world grew smaller, until I could barely recognize the life I once had. If only I had realized sooner what they meant by taking care of me. But I love my job, I argued. I need to talk to Diane about all this. James's face darkened. Diane doesn't understand our family dynamics. Besides, Dr. Thompson strongly recommends limiting outside contact to prevent infections. Dr. Thompson backed him up, as always, with medical jargon I couldn't refute. Your pregnancy is extremely delicate, he explained during one of his home visits. Complete bed rest and isolation are necessary. Sarah, of course, stepped in to help. She took over everything, spending hours in the nursery. The crib should face east for better energy, she declared one day. When I disagreed, she snapped, I've researched this extensively. I know what's best. Barbara chimed in during her frequent visits, always praising their controlling behavior. You're so blessed to have such a devoted family, she cooed. When I was pregnant, I had to do everything myself. But something was wrong. After taking my prenatal vitamins, I started feeling strange, exhausted all the time. Why am I so sleepy? I asked during a checkup. Perfectly normal, Dr. Thompson assured me. Pregnancy affects everyone differently. Then, one morning, I overheard a whispered conversation between Sarah and James outside my bedroom door. The nursery at my house is almost ready, Sarah said softly. Are you sure about this? James sounded hesitant. It's for the best. She's clearly not stable enough to handle motherhood. My blood ran cold. I felt trapped in my own home. Security cameras appeared for my safety. The windows were child-locked to prevent accidents. Even my food was strictly monitored. Everything must be organic and prepared properly, Sarah insisted, throwing away snacks I'd hidden. When I tried to make a call on the landline, I discovered it was rigged to connect only to family. See how much we care about you. Barbara said smugly. Most women would kill for this kind of attention. The drowsiness worsened. Sometimes, I'd wake up without remembering falling asleep, only to find Sarah hovering over me, measuring my belly or rummaging through my belongings. Just checking on my favorite sister-in-law, she'd say with a saccharine smile. I knew something was terribly wrong, but in my drugged state, I could barely think straight. I needed help, but who could I trust when my entire world had become a carefully constructed prison? Then, during one of Sarah's obsessive cleaning sessions, she got called away for an emergency at work. In her haste, she left behind her designer bag, something she always kept close. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, I found a leather-bound diary. What I read made my blood turn to ice. Plan is proceeding perfectly. One entry read, James agrees it's best for everyone. After the birth, will prove she's unstable. Dr. T will testify about her paranoid behavior and depression. The baby will be safer with me. Another entry detailed fabricated symptoms, dates, and even photos of a psychiatric facility they had already chosen. Met with Dr. Thompson today. He'll adjust her medical records to show a history of mental instability. Cost us a pretty penny, but worth it. He's always had a soft spot for me. The sound of a car pulling up jolted me. I quickly returned the diary and rushed back to bed. Moments later, Sarah burst in, her smile as fake as ever. Sorry about that emergency. Now, where were we with the nursery plans? I pretended everything was normal, even as my world crumbled around me. The next day, during Barbara's usual 15-minute bathroom break, I heard a faint tap at my window. Diane? I whispered, barely believing my eyes. She slipped inside. I've been watching the house for weeks, she said. I knew something was wrong when you stopped answering calls. Diane had brought a burner phone and tiny cameras. We need proof, she said, planting them around the house, especially in the kitchen where my food and vitamins were prepared. That night, the cameras captured James crushing pills into my prenatal vitamins while Sarah supervised. Mom's got the paperwork ready, James said. After the birth, everything needs to move quickly. Dr. Thompson says we can claim postpartum psychosis, Sarah replied. No one will question it. Through the burner phone, Diane helped me gather more evidence. We recorded conversations, documented my confinement, and photographed the tampered vitamins. They're using benzodiazepines, Diane revealed after sneaking a sample to her pharmacist friend. That's why you're always drowsy. The deeper we dug, the darker it got. Barbara had been feeding my family lies, telling them I needed space during a difficult pregnancy. But now I had a lifeline, and with Diane by my side, I vowed to expose the truth and reclaim my life, no matter the cost. Dr. Thompson had an entire file of falsified medical records prepared. Even Mike, Sarah's husband, was in on it. There were texts about him drafting the legal documents for my institutionalization. "We need to get you out," Diane said during another secret visit. "But we have to be smart about it. They're all in on this. Sarah, James, your mother-in-law, even the doctor." I rubbed my growing belly, feeling the baby kick. "They want to steal my baby," I whispered. "My own husband. How could he do this?" "Don't worry." Diane squeezed my hand, her voice firm. "I've got a plan, but we'll only get one shot at this." We waited until their weekly family breakfast, an hours-long tradition at Sarah's house where they gathered to discuss their sinister plans for my baby. The irony wasn't lost on me as Diane whispered, "They're all there. The security camera confirms it. Let's move." My hands trembled as we drove to Mount Sinai Hospital. The new doctors were horrified by my test results. "These drug levels," the emergency physician said, shaking his head as he documented everything. "Someone has been systematically sedating you. This is criminal." I called Anna, my old college roommate turned investigative journalist. When she saw the evidence, she said, "This is bigger than a family dispute. This is a scandal." The story broke like a tsunami. The headline read, "Prominent Doctor and Family's Sinister Plot to Steal Unborn Child." National news stations picked it up, but that was just the beginning. "Mrs. Anderson, we need to talk about your husband's financial activities," a corporate investigator told me at the safe house. It turned out James had been embezzling company funds for years, funneling money into Sarah's endless IVF treatments. "He's stolen nearly $500,000, the investigator explained. "We're pressing charges." Sarah's world imploded next. Her fraudulent insurance claims for non-existent fertility treatments came to light. During her very public divorce proceedings, she screamed at Mike, "I did it for us. Everything I did was to give us a family." The day Dr. Thompson was arrested, my water broke. Diane stayed by my side through 16 grueling hours of labor. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, placing her in my arms. "Hello, Emma," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "You're safe now." The sentencing hearings followed. James received 12 years for embezzlement, conspiracy, and attempted kidnapping. Dr. Thompson lost his medical license and was sentenced to 8 years. Sarah received 5 years for insurance fraud and conspiracy. During the final hearing, I addressed the court. "They tried to steal not just my baby, but my sanity and my life. Sometimes the best revenge isn't watching your enemies fall. It's rising so far above them that their schemes seem small and pathetic in comparison." Today, Emma and I are thriving. She's proof that love doesn't need control or manipulation, it just needs to be real. But I often wonder, what would you do if you discovered your spouse and their entire family were secretly drugging you and plotting to steal your child? Would you expose them immediately, risking that they destroy the evidence, or would you gather proof first, even if it meant enduring more abuse? Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, a 27-year-old marketing executive at Thompson & Associates. 2 years ago, my life took an unexpected turn when I met James Miller at a corporate event. He was charming, successful, and seemed like the perfect match. Our relationship moved quickly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, and before I knew it, we were spending every weekend together. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," James would say, holding my hand across the table. His words made my heart flutter. Little did I know what I was really getting into. Everything was perfect until I met his mother, Eleanor Miller. She arrived unannounced at one of our dinner dates, dressed in designer clothes and wearing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, so this is the girl you've been seeing." "I pictured someone different," she said, her words dripping with barely concealed judgment. My best friend Teresa noticed it right away. "Girl, did you see how she looked at you when you mentioned your promotion? Like you just said you worked at a fast food joint," she said later. "Maybe she's just protective," I defend, though Teresa always shook her head. "No, honey, that woman is marking her territory." James's sister, Sarah, was a different story. She pulled me aside at family gatherings, squeezing my arm reassuringly. "Don't let Mom get to you. She does this to everyone." But the red flags were hard to ignore. Eleanor would forget to set a place for me at family dinners or conveniently exclude me from family photos. When I brought it up to James, he'd shrug. "Baby, that's just how Mom is. She'll warm up to you eventually." Things escalated when James proposed. Eleanor immediately took over the engagement party planning. No, no, dear, she said, brushing off my suggestions. You couldn't possibly understand our family traditions. I'll handle everything. But I thought we could plan it together, I ventured. Oh, sweetie, you're so busy with your little job. Let me take care of it, she replied with that condescending smile. James, standing awkwardly nearby, avoided eye contact. Mom knows best, he muttered. Even Sarah tried to warn me. She did this with James' ex too, started small, then got worse. Teresa, as usual, didn't hold back. Are you seriously letting her run your engagement party? Girl, this is just the beginning. I watched helplessly as Eleanor took over every detail. The venue, the guest list, the menu. She even tried to choose my dress. The blue one makes you look more appropriate, she said, her tone saccharine but her eyes cold. Now, with the engagement party a week away, I'm watching Eleanor transform what should be our celebration into her show. James insists I'm overreacting, but Teresa and Sarah see it too. Something tells me this party is going to be unforgettable, just not in the way I'd hoped. Just remember, Teresa told me yesterday you're marrying James, not his mother. But lately, I wonder if that's really true, because it feels like I'm signing up for both, and Eleanor Miller is making it very clear who's in charge. The engagement party was a spectacle straight out of Eleanor's playbook. Crystal chandeliers, extravagant floral arrangements, and her high society friends filling every corner of her mansion. I felt out of place the moment I walked in, especially when I saw she'd rearranged the seating chart to put me at a corner table, far from James. Darling, you understand, don't you? The Andersons simply must sit with James. They're such important business connections. Throughout the night, Eleanor made sure everyone knew who was in control. She interrupted my conversations with guests, redirecting them to James' achievements. Isn't he just perfect? And to think he's building his empire all by himself, she'd say, emphasizing by himself while glancing at me dismissively. The breaking point came during her speech. I was standing near the dessert table when she approached, coffee cup in hand. Mid-sentence, she began to talk about welcoming new family members who understand our standards. The silence was deafening when Eleanor suddenly tripped, spilling hot coffee all over my cream-colored dress. The liquid seeped into the fabric, leaving a dark stain as I stood there, mortified. Oh my, look what you made me do, Eleanor gasped theatrically, clutching her chest as though she were the victim. Quick, clean this up before it stains my imported carpet. I froze, the coffee dripping down my dress. On your knees, dear, she instructed, her voice loud enough to carry across the room. That's the only way to properly clean it. James, darling, get her some towels, Eleanor demanded. James stepped forward hesitantly, his face pale. Mom, maybe we should. James, my carpet. Do you know how much it costs? Lisa needs to clean up her mess. I turned to James, silently pleading for him to intervene, but he simply handed me the towels, avoiding my eyes. It's easier if we just do what she says, he whispered. From across the room, I caught Sarah subtly recording the scene on her phone. Then Teresa pushed through the crowd, grabbing my arm. We're leaving. Now. But the party. It's over. For you, Teresa said firmly, steering me out the door. As we drove away, my phone buzzed. Sarah had sent me screenshots of texts between James and Eleanor from the past month. She's not right for you, darling. Did you see how she embarrassed us at the country club? Mom, Lisa's trying her best. Best isn't good enough for a Miller. Remember Caroline? She knew how to behave in our circles. The messages painted a chilling picture. Eleanor had sabotaged the venue booking by pretending to be my wedding planner. She told the caterer we wanted to go in a different direction. She had even contacted my boss under the guise of concern about my work hours. Another text from Sarah came in. I found something else. Mom's been meeting with Caroline. She's trying to get her back with James. Teresa tightened her grip on the steering wheel. You need to see this for what it is. She humiliated you in front of everyone, and James let it happen. As if on cue, my phone lit up again. James's message read, Mom's upset you left early. She says you're being dramatic about a little accident. Maybe you should apologize. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about coffee on a dress. This was Eleanor showing me exactly who she was, and James showing me exactly who he wasn't. The next morning, I met Patricia, James's ex-fiancée, over coffee in a quiet diner. She stirred her drink nervously. I should have warned you when I heard about the engagement, she said. Eleanor didn't just break us up, she systematically destroyed my life. Patricia shared stories eerily similar to mine. She made me clean spilled wine at their Christmas party, called me a gold digger at our engagement party. By the end, I lost a promotion and had to move cities. Sarah joined us, dropping a folder on the table. You need to see this, she said grimly. Mom doesn't just control James emotionally, she's the silent partner in his business. She funds everything through family loans. He can't make a single decision without her approval. Back at work, the fallout began. Clients canceled meetings. My boss called me in. Someone's expressed concerns about your reliability. Care to explain these calls about your unstable behavior during work hours? Teresa helped me document everything. The phone calls, the rumors, the sabotage. Look at this pattern, she pointed out. She's done the same thing to Sarah's college boyfriend, James's high school girlfriend, even their cousin's fiancé. Anyone who threatens her control gets eliminated. I confronted James at his office, presenting the evidence. These are ridiculous accusations, he snapped. Mom's looking out for me. You're just jealous of our close relationship. Close relationship? She's suffocating you, James. She controls your business, your relationships, your entire life. At least she's family, he retorted. You're just someone who clearly doesn't understand our world. Later that night, Sarah called, her voice shaking. I found something while going through Mom's office. She's been forging signatures on business documents. The Miller family business isn't as clean as everyone thinks. Eleanor's next move was bold. She showed up at my office, uninvited. I'm willing to forget this unfortunate situation if you walk away quietly, she said with a razor-sharp smile. Otherwise, I have friends in many places. Your career, your reputation, such fragile things. That night, I spread everything out on my dining table. Documentation, testimonies, and proof of Eleanor's manipulation. Teresa sat beside me, flipping through the pages. Girl, you know what you have to do, she said. You're right, I replied. I deserve better than this. I drafted a message to James. I won't be another victim of your mother's games. I choose myself. The ring will be returned through my lawyer. Don't contact me again. Sarah sent me one last text. You're doing the right thing. I wish I was as strong as you. That night, I stared at my reflection in the mirror and saw something I hadn't seen in months myself. Not Eleanor's puppet, not James's conflicted fiancé. Just me, the woman who refused to kneel any longer. Teresa hugged me tightly. This isn't the end, you know. It's your new beginning. For the first time since the coffee incident, I smiled. Because this time, the mess I was cleaning up wasn't on my knees. It was on my terms. I didn't need to do anything else. Karma had already started its work. Sarah's video of the coffee incident went viral within our social circle, capturing Eleanor's calculated cruelty in crystal clear detail. Her cold commands, my humiliation, the shocked faces of the guests, all laid bare. Did you see how Eleanor treated that poor girl? People whispered. I always knew something was off about her. The whispers turned into roars when Eleanor's business rivals got wind of her fraudulent practices. Mr. Richardson, a longtime competitor, reached out to me during a chance meeting. You weren't the first person she tried to destroy, he said with a grim smile, but you'll definitely be the last. James's business partners started pulling out, one after another. Teresa, with her connections in finance, kept me updated. They're discovering years of Eleanor's interference in deals, she reported. Your mother's signature is on documents she had no authority to sign, one partner said. This isn't just unethical, it's illegal. Then came my own sweet victory. Remember my little job Eleanor loved to dismiss. Well, guess who just got headhunted by Miller Enterprises' biggest competitor? We've been watching your work, my new CEO told me during the interview, and we value people who stand up for themselves. One afternoon, Sarah called me, laughing through tears. Mom just got uninvited from the charity board she's chaired for 15 years. They said her recent behavior doesn't align with their values. From a safe distance, I watched Eleanor's carefully constructed world crumble. The country club suddenly had no tables available when she called. Her bridge group disbanded. Even her gardening circle found a new leader. James, of course, tried to reach out. He showed up at my new office one afternoon, looking disheveled and remorseful. I was wrong, he said, his voice shaking. I see it all now. What she did to you, to us. Please, can we try again? I looked him in the eye, calm and resolute. The coffee stains came out of my dress, I told him. But the memory of you standing there, doing nothing, that's permanent. Sarah finally moved out of the family mansion. We meet for coffee every week now. Real coffee, with no hidden agendas or power plays. You gave me the courage to break free, she told me last week. I'm starting my own business, away from family money. Yesterday, I saw Eleanor at a restaurant. She was sitting alone, her designer outfit still impeccable, but her table conspicuously empty. Our eyes met briefly. I smiled, not out of cruelty, but because I felt nothing. No anger, no fear, no need for revenge. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. Eleanor wanted me on my knees, but I rose higher than she ever imagined. And the view from up here, absolutely perfect. Hi, I'm Diana. 3 years after losing my mom to cancer, my world turned upside down. I was 16, clinging to the memories of my mom while watching my dad, Jack, fall for Regina, a bakery owner who seemed as sweet as her cupcakes. She'll be good for us, Diana. We need to move forward, Dad said, announcing their engagement. I wanted to believe him, but something about Regina felt off. Your father tells me you love art. I'd love to see your work sometime, Regina said during our first dinner together. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then came Macy, Regina's daughter. Nice room. Guess we'll have to share since Mom wants me close to her, she said, dumping her designer bags on my floor like she owned the place. I found refuge at the Silver Lane Gallery after school, where I worked arranging displays. Your eye for detail is remarkable, my boss would say. At least someone appreciated my passion. Patsy, darling, could you help out at the bakery this weekend? Just a few hours, Regina asked one Friday. Those few hours turned into every weekend. Then after school too. No pay, just family duty. But I have my gallery job, I protested. Family comes first, sweetheart. Besides, your little art hobby can wait, Regina said. Mrs. Chen, our elderly neighbor, always seemed to be watering her plants when drama unfolded. Young girl, I see everything from my window, she said one afternoon. Your stepmother reminds me of someone I once knew. Be careful. Even my best friend Lisa noticed the changes. She's all sweet when your dad's around. But I see how she looks at you when he turns away, Lisa whispered over lunch. She made me quit my gallery job, I confided. Says I need to focus on learning the bakery business. She's trying to control everything about you, Lisa said, her eyes narrowing. My art teacher, Miss Thompson, became my sanctuary. Your latest piece shows such raw emotion, Diana. Are you okay? She asked. I'm fine, I lied, while Regina's Instagram portrayed a perfect blended family. #blessed, #family first, #stepmom life. Look how many likes our family photo got. Regina beamed at dinner. Patsy, next time wear something more presentable and smile more. Dad was barely home, always traveling for work. Regina's doing her best, he'd say during our brief phone calls. Give her a chance. But how could I, when she was erasing everything that made me me, my art, my job, my space? Everything had to fit her perfect family narrative. Remember, Macy whispered one night, her voice like a dagger, Mom always gets what she wants. Always. The way she said it sent chills down my spine. Little did I know, the nightmare was only beginning. With Dad taking more business trips, Regina stopped pretending. Her true colors blowed through. Look at Macy's perfect grades. Why can't you be more like her? She'd snap during dinner, while Macy smirked behind her phone. My art portfolio for college was due, but Regina ensured I had no time to work on it. Art won't pay the bills, Patsy. Look at your father. He works in the real world. Then came her birthday. It was an obsession, a social media spectacle. I want you to bake my cake. It needs to look exactly like this. She shoved a magazine photo of an impossibly intricate 4-tier cake into my hands. But I've never made anything that elaborate, I said, my voice trembling. Are you saying you're not capable, after all the time you've spent in my bakery? Regina's eyes glinted with a dangerous malice I'd come to fear. Determined not to fail, I spent hours in the kitchen. The counters were a disaster, powdered sugar coated my hair, and the cake, it just wasn't working. By the time the 3rd tier collapsed, I felt like collapsing too. Regina stormed in, her heels clicking sharply on the tile. "You stupid, worthless girl. You're ruining everything." Before I could respond, she grabbed the iron she'd been using for her party dress, still hot and glowing. "Let me teach you what happens to failures in this house." The searing pain when she pressed it against my arm was unbearable. I screamed, begging her to stop, but her grip didn't loosen. "Maybe this will help you remember to do things right," she hissed, pressing harder. What neither of us realized was that Macy stood in the doorway, phone in hand, recording the entire scene. I caught a glimpse of her sliding away silently as my vision blurred with tears. Later that night, I sat on the porch, tears streaming down my face as I clumsily tried to bandage the burns. Mrs. Chen appeared out of nowhere, her concerned face illuminated by the porch light. "Come with me, child. I have burn cream," she said, her hands trembling as she treated my wounds. "This cannot continue." A car pulled up just then. A man stepped out, tall and commanding, his face a sharper, older version of Macy's. "I'm Derek, Regina's ex-husband," he said. "I've been watching her. I know what she's capable of." "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Macy called me. She's scared too, Patsy. Regina has a history of this. That's why I fought for custody years ago, but she's good at hiding the evidence." That night, with my arm throbbing under makeshift bandages, I poured my emotions into a new art piece. The portrait was haunting, a smiling woman with flames for hands. When Miss Thompson saw it the next day, she gasped, "Diana, this is powerful. Are you trying to tell me something?" I tugged my sleeves down tighter. "It's just art," I lied, but we both knew it was more than that. My bruises might have been hidden, but my art screamed the truth I couldn't say out loud. "Document everything," Derek had said before leaving. "Your time for justice will come." That night, as Regina posted pictures of her store-bought birthday cake on Instagram, #perfectbirthday, #blessedmother, I stared at the cracks beginning to show in her perfect facade. The truth started leaking out during art class. My sleeve rode up as I reached for a brush, exposing the burn. "Oh my God, what happened to your arm?" Miss Thompson asked, grabbing my wrist gently. I had an accident with the stove," I stammered. "That's not a stove burn, Diana. I used to volunteer at a women's shelter. I know what I'm looking at." That same afternoon, Derek showed up at school. "Your dad needs to know the truth about Regina. Years ago, she lost custody of Macy after incidents. I have court documents to prove it." "Then why is Macy with her now?" I asked. "She manipulated the system. Promised Macy everything she wanted. But it's all falling apart." At the bakery, things were unraveling. Regina was more focused on controlling me than managing her business. "You can't fire me just because your stepdaughter messed up an order," Sarah, a longtime employee, yelled. "I can do whatever I want. Get out. Every one of you is replaceable." Regina screamed as Sarah and two others walked out. Meanwhile, Macy started leaving her phone around, quietly recording her mother's tirades. "Mom, maybe you should calm down," she'd suggest sweetly, handling the camera just right. "Don't tell me how to run my house." Regina would snap, oblivious to being documented. I tried to tell Dad during his rare calls. "Dad, Regina's not who you think." She burned me. "Stop making up stories, Diana," he interrupted. "Regina says you're acting out because you miss your mom. You need to stop seeking attention." Mrs. Chen arrived at our door one evening, holding a thick notebook. "I write everything I see, the screaming, the injuries, the employees leaving. Your father needs this when he's ready to see the truth." Regina's perfect social media world was crumbling. Her latest post about family dinner was bombarded with comments. Ask her about her bakery's turnover rate. Wonder if she burns her employees like she burns her stepdaughter. Regina went ballistic, deleting comments as fast as they appeared. "They're all lying. They're jealous of our perfect life." Macy cornered me in our room that night, her face pale but determined. "I have videos, Diana. Lots of them," she confessed, voice trembling. "Mom, she did the same things to me when I was younger. That's why Dad left." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, feeling both betrayed and heartbroken. "Because I thought if I played along, stayed her perfect daughter, she wouldn't hurt me again. I was wrong. She just found a new target." The next weeks were chaos. The bakery's reviews plummeted. Worst management ever. Owner too busy terrorizing her family to run a business. Regina's rage grew with every bad review. "This is your fault," she screamed, her face twisted with fury. "You've turned everyone against me." But for the first time, I wasn't scared. Unlike before, I wasn't alone. Mrs. Chen was watching. Miss Thompson was watching. Derek was investigating. And Macy was recording everything. "Your perfect family is falling apart," I said, my voice steady. "And you did this to yourself." The look in her eyes told me I'd pay for that comment, but this time I was ready. We all were. Everything unraveled faster than one of Regina's overpriced cakes. Dad called in a panic after receiving an anonymous video compilation. "Is this real, Patsy? Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried, Dad, but she always convinced you I was lying." The health department raided the bakery after anonymous tips. They found expired ingredients, rat droppings, and falsified inspection documents. Regina's Instagram perfect life imploded as #ReginaTheAbuser trended. Her followers watched her meltdown in real time. "You ungrateful brats. I gave you everything," she screamed in one video. "You gave us trauma," Macy replied calmly. Dad filed for divorce the same day. Regina was arrested for child abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. Mrs. Chen's meticulous diary, teacher testimonies, medical records of my burns, and Macy's videos. 5 years flew by. I graduated from art school with honors, and the opening night of my gallery, Phoenix Rising, Art of Survival, drew hundreds of people. Meanwhile, Regina worked the register at a gas station, her designer clothes replaced by a polyester uniform. Her bakery was gone, replaced by a thriving cooperative owned by her former employees. "Your work is changing lives," a young girl told me at the gallery. It helped me speak up about my own abuse. In that moment, I knew everything I endured had a purpose. My art had become a voice for those still trapped in silence. Last I heard, Regina tried opening a home bakery, but her reputation followed her. No one wanted cakes from the woman whose abuse went viral. I looked around at my success, the gallery, my healing, my chosen family, and realized Regina had given me one thing: the fuel to rise above her flames. And Regina, she's exactly where she deserves to be, alone, watching through a gas station window as her victims thrive without her. But here's the lingering question: is forgiveness truly necessary for healing? I refused to forgive Regina. Even as she lost everything, I succeeded, healed, and built a beautiful life. Forgiveness wasn't part of my journey, and yet, I found peace. What's your take? Should survivors feel pressured to forgive their abusers to complete their healing, or is it enough to simply let go and move forward? Hi, I'm Emily. When you're the only one who sees through someone's act, it can feel like you're living in a parallel world. That's been my life ever since Harry waltzed into our family 3 years ago. To everyone else, he's the charming businessman who swept my mom, Laura, off her feet after Dad passed away. Everyone except me. Your mother deserves happiness, Emily. Why can't you just accept that? My sister Charlie's words from last week still ring in my ears. She doesn't see what I see. How Harry's caring suggestions are really controlling demands, or how Mom's vibrant, spontaneous personality has dimmed since he moved in. Have you noticed Mom doesn't even go to her painting classes anymore? I'd asked Charlie. She's busy helping Harry with his business ventures. Besides, those classes were expensive, Charlie said dismissively. His so-called business ventures that always seem to need Mom's savings to get off the ground. I've tried pointing out the red flags to Charlie, but Harry has her completely under his spell, especially since he offered to pay for her dream wedding to Brandon. Brandon, at least, is one of the few people who sees through Harry. Last month at dinner, he pulled me aside. "I saw how Harry spoke to your mom when she wanted to visit you in Chicago. Something's not right." I was starting to lose hope until Jennifer, Mom's oldest friend, cornered me at the supermarket. "Your instincts about Harry aren't wrong," she said, glancing around as if she were about to share classified information. "I've heard things from people who knew him before." That's when the pieces began falling into place. The secretive phone calls in the garage, the way he tenses up when anyone mentions his past, and the locked drawer in his office he thinks no one knows about. "We need to talk," Jennifer whispered. "Privately. There's so much your mother doesn't know." Before we could meet, Charlie dropped a bombshell. "Brandon proposed. We're having an engagement party next month," she announced, glowing with excitement. Harry immediately took charge. I'll handle everything. It needs to be perfect for my little girl. Little girl, Charlie isn't even his daughter. But there he was, playing Father of the Year. You'll help with the planning, right, Emily? Charlie asked, beaming. Of course, I said, forcing a smile. I caught Harry's expression darken. He hates when I'm involved in family events. Too many questions, he says. Too negative. Well, if he thinks I asked too many questions now, just wait. Jennifer's intel might be exactly what I need to expose him. And the engagement party? It could be the perfect moment to crack his carefully crafted facade. When Jennifer arrived at my apartment, she brought a stack of documents. Her hands shook as she spread them across my kitchen table. 3 marriages, Emily. All ended within 2 years. Each time he walked away with everything. Marriage certificates, divorce records, even newspaper clippings, it was all there in black and white. Harry Thompson wasn't even his real name. He changed it after his second divorce. Patricia Morrison, his first wife, tried to warn the others, Jennifer explained. He isolated her, convinced her to invest in his schemes, and drained her accounts before she caught on. My stomach dropped. Just like Mom's painting studio money. Sarah Chin, wife number 2, lost her restaurant, Jennifer continued. And Elizabeth Baker. She filed a restraining order but later dropped it and moved across the country. No one's heard from her since. My phone buzzed. Another text from Charlie. Harry's taking care of the guest list. Isn't he the best? But he thinks maybe you should skip the planning committee. Classic Harry, Jennifer sighed. He did the same thing with Elizabeth's daughter's graduation. Always the caring father figure, until someone starts asking questions. I opened the banking app Mom had given me emergency access to. The balance had dropped again. Look at this, I said, showing Jennifer. 3 transfers to business development partners this month. Shell Company, Jennifer said grimly. He used the same trick with Patricia. We need to act fast before your mom's account ends up like the others. A knock at the door made us both jump. It was Brandon, looking worried. Emily, you need to hear this, he said. I stopped by your mom's place to drop off some engagement photos. Harry was in the garage, arguing on the phone. What did you hear? I asked, bracing myself. Something about handling the Emily situation and making sure she doesn't ruin things this time. He sounded dangerous, not like his usual self. Jennifer gathered the documents quickly. He's getting nervous. Last time someone dug into his past, Elizabeth lost everything. The engagement party's in 3 days, I said, an idea forming. Everyone he knows will be there, including some faces from his past. He won't be expecting it. Emily, be careful, Jennifer warned. Elizabeth tried a public confrontation, and that's when things got ugly. But Elizabeth was alone. I've got proof, witnesses, and a backup plan. I held up my phone, showing them the email I just received. I found his second wife, Sarah. She's willing to talk. Brandon checked his watch. Charlie and your mom are meeting the caterers in an hour. Harry insisted on going with them. Perfect. That gives us time to set up everything at the venue, I said. Jennifer, call Sarah. See if she can fly in. Brandon, keep Charlie busy tomorrow. I'll make copies of all these documents. What about your mom? Brandon asked. She gets the truth. But first, we make sure Harry can't talk his way out of it. Not this time. He's going to fight back, Jennifer said. Let him try. I'm not Elizabeth, Patricia, or Sarah. I'm the daughter he tried to push away, and I've got nothing to lose. For the next hour, we planned every detail. Harry thought he was directing this show, but he had no idea he was about to star in his own exposure party. The country club ballroom sparkled with champagne glasses and fake smiles. Harry played the proud father figure, one arm around Mom's waist, the other patting Brandon's shoulder as he bragged about his girls to his business partners. Everything's in place, Jennifer whispered, handing me a fresh drink. Sarah's in position. Patricia sent over the video deposition. All we need is you. Charlie rushed over, her engagement ring catching the light. Why aren't you mingling? Harry says you've been acting weird all week. Just waiting for the right moment, sis. It's your special day after all. Harry's eyes tracked my every move as I circled the room. Good, let him sweat. Brandon had already connected his laptop to the projector for the special engagement slideshow. Time for speeches. Harry's voice boomed across the room. As the proud father of this beautiful bride-to-be, Stepfather, I corrected, stepping forward. And speaking of family roles, Harry, why don't we talk about your other families? The room fell silent. Mom turned, confusion crossing her face. Emily, what are you? Does the name Patricia Morrison mean anything to you, Harry? Or maybe Sarah Chen? Elizabeth Baker? Harry's face hardened. You're making a scene. This is Charlie's day. No, Harry, this is your day, the day everyone learns who you really are. Brandon clicked his laptop and the projector hummed to life, displaying marriage certificates, court documents, and newspaper clippings. 3 marriages, 3 divorces, 3 women left bankrupt, and now you're working on number 4. Turn that off. Harry lunged toward Brandon, but Jennifer stepped in his path. Hello, Harry, Sarah Chen said, emerging from the crowd. Remember me? The restaurant you convinced me to sign over. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Harry, they're lying. Lauren, this is ridiculous, Harry blustered. The only ridiculous thing, I said, pulling up Mom's banking records on the projector, is how you thought you'd get away with the same scam a 4th time. Business Development Partners, your favorite shell company, needs a new name. Charlie stood frozen. The wedding fund doesn't exist. It doesn't, Sarah confirmed. Just like my retirement fund didn't, or Patricia's savings, or Elizabeth's inheritance. Harry's carefully constructed mask cracked. You ungrateful little. He lunged at me, hands outstretched. Brandon intercepted him, grabbing his arms, while 2 of Harry's business partners stepped in to help. Amid the chaos, Jennifer slipped a USB drive to the police officer waiting by the door, the same officer who had handled Elizabeth's restraining order. Get your hands off me. Laura, tell them. But Mom stood tall, her artist's eyes finally seeing the full picture. No, Harry, you tell me. Tell me why our joint account is empty. Tell me where my studio money went. I was protecting our future. Everything I did was for this family. Which family? Sarah asked. The one in Oregon? Texas? Or Elizabeth's family? Charlie's tears turned to anger. You promised. You said you'd help with the wedding. He says that to everyone, sis, I said, moving to hug her. But this time, he's the one who loses everything. 2 months after the engagement party, Mom and I sat across from each other at our favorite coffee shop. She looked younger than she had in years. The divorce papers are signed. The DA is pressing charges for assault and financial fraud, she said, sipping her coffee. How are you feeling? I asked. Relieved, embarrassed, grateful. She reached for my hand. I should have listened to you sooner. Harry fooled a lot of people, Mom. Sarah and Patricia were both successful businesswomen, she said, smiling. Speaking of Sarah, she's helping me restart my art studio. Says it's her way of paying it forward. Jennifer joined us, setting her bag down. I just got off the phone with Elizabeth's daughter. Harry's other victims are filing civil suits. He won't have a penny left when they're done. Or a friend, I added. His business partners jumped ship the moment they saw those documents. Turns out he was scamming them too. Have you heard from Charlie? Jennifer asked. The bell above the door chimed. Why don't you ask me yourself? Charlie stood in the doorway, Brandon beside her holding a stack of new wedding invitations. We're thinking a small garden ceremony, she said, a smile breaking through. No fake father figure required. Charlie, Mom began, her voice faltering. It's okay, Mom. Charlie crossed the room and took her hand. Emily was right. We all needed a wake-up call. She grinned, looking at me. Besides, my maid of honor here saved us from making a huge mistake. And the wedding fund? Brandon asked. Already handled, Jennifer announced. Patricia and Sarah started a collection among Harry's victims. They want to sponsor the wedding, a celebration of new beginnings. My phone buzzed with a news alert. I glanced at the screen and couldn't help but smirk. Harry's mugshot filled the display, replacing those polished headshots he once loved. 3 counts of financial fraud, I read aloud, plus the assault charges. He's looking at 8 to 10 years. Mom chuckled. The jewelry he gave me paid for a good lawyer. Turns out it was fake, just like him. Sounds about right, Charlie added, rolling her eyes. Brandon squeezed her shoulder. The real ceremony is going to be perfect. No facades, no pretending. And no more mysterious business ventures, Mom said with a laugh. Though I did invest in something new, an alarm system for the art studio. Just in case. You won't need it, Jennifer assured her. Harry's other wives are making sure his face is known to every bank and business association in the country. I looked around the room at my real family. No perfect facades, no lies. Just us. Hey, Charlie, think we could hang the engagement party photos in the studio? You know, the ones right after Harry got arrested. Only if we put them next to Mom's new paintings, Charlie quipped. What are you calling that series again? Mom's eyes sparkled with her old mischief. Unmasked. It's all about revealing what's beneath the surface. Perfect title, I said, raising my glass. To seeing clearly. To family, Charlie added. The real kind, Mom finished. Outside, spring flowers bloomed in the window boxes, fresh starts all around. Harry's perfect world had crumbled, but ours. Ours was finally authentic, stronger than ever, built on truth instead of lies. Let's talk about it. This story was an experiment in exposing toxic family members and the hard choices that come with it. If you discovered someone close to you, like a step-parent, had a hidden, damaging past, would you reveal their secrets for the sake of justice, even if it risked family relationships? Is public exposure ever justified if it prevents others from becoming victims? Or does family loyalty mean handling such matters quietly behind closed doors? Many of you might be grappling with similar dilemmas. Share your thoughts in the comments.